Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, the Ukrainians are reporting that the Russians continue their offensive in the same areas, right? Avdiivka, Bahhmut and Novopavlivka. And if the Ukrainians are reporting that, that means it must be worse than actually is. Otherwise they say, well, nothing there, nothing to see. But they mention it every day. Every day I make a video talking about the situation over there, the developments, and how the front develops in a way that who's doing what. And that's, again, according to the Ukrainians. Therefore, attention, caution. If that would be coming from the Russians, I would say the same thing because that's what they do. They maximize their successes, minimize their losses, and vice versa. So this article comes from Ukrainska Pravda, and it's from today, the 23rd of November 2022. Invader advance on Bahhmut and Avdiivka fronts. Suffer losses. General Staff report. So, the invaders, now they call them invaders. From tomorrow they will call them the terrorist state, or the state sponsor of terrorism, because that's what they were designated today by the European Union. So, the invaders continue to fire at settlements and infrastructure facilities with all types of weapons, trying to advance on two fronts. Source: Evening summary of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Details: the General Staff reports that on Bahhmut and Avdiivka fronts, the occupiers are focusing their main efforts on conducting offensive operations. The invaders fired tanks. As I said, always will say this. When these guys are talking about tanks, that means they're advancing. So they fired tanks, mortars, barrels and rocket artillery at targets in the areas of the settlements of Bakhmutsky, Bahhmut, Klishchivka, Zelenopilia, Avdiivka, Vodiane, Pervomaisk and Nevelsk. Now, on the other sides of the aisle, on the Volyn and Policia fronts, there is no significant change in the situation, and there are no signs of the formation of Russian offensive groups. On Sivershchinya front, the invaders fired multiple launch rocket systems at areas in and around the village of Kustynie, Sumy Oblast. On the Slobozhanshchinya front, Russian forces continue to hold troops in the border areas of Russia's Belgorod Oblast in order to conduct demonstration actions. Periodically, there are attacks on the positions of our troops as well as on settlements in Kharkiv Oblast near Ukraine's border with Russia. On the Kupiansk and Liman fronts, the aggressor is on the defensive. It is carrying out attacks using tanks, mortars and barrel artillery, in particular in the areas of the settlements of Kieslivka, Klochmalne and Berestove in Kharkiv Oblast, and in Makivka and Bilohorivka in Luhansk Oblast. Now they mentioned here attack using tanks, and they say that the aggressor is on the defensive. I don't know what to believe. But the fact is, they all launch rockets and whatever tube artillery. On Novopavlivka and Zaporozhia fronts, Russian forces are on the defensive. So Novopavlivka became a defensive now. Until yesterday, it was an offensive as Avdiivka and Bahhmut. Their artillery fire affected the area of about 10 settlements. On the Kryvyi Rih and Kherson fronts, the invaders are conducting positional defense. Barrel and rocket artillery was used to fire at the settlements of Marivka, Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, and Kherson, Tokarivka, Antonivka, and Dniprovsk in Kherson Oblast. The invaders continue to suffer losses, So, in recent days, more than 30 seriously wounded Russian servicemen from the northwestern outskirts of Avdiivka have been taken to hospitals in the city. In the temporarily occupied territories of the Luhansk region, the invaders continue to forcibly resettle pro-Ukraine residents. So, under the pretext of counter-sabotage actions over the past week, about 20 local 20 local farmers were moved from the settlements of Deneznikove and Strnovmove and in Luhansk Oblast. The Ukrainian armed forces' successful attack on the invaders' manpower and military equipment in the previous days has been confirmed. So, in the Luhansk Oblast, an ammunition depot was hit. About 50 invaders were killed and up to 50 were wounded. In Zaporozhye Oblast, the aggressors' losses amounted to up to 15 people killed and up to 20 wounded. During the current day, our aircraft carried out 4 strikes, 3 on a cluster of enemy personnel, weapons and military equipment, and 1 on the position of an anti-aircraft missile system. Soldiers of the Ukrainian missile forces and artillery hit a cluster of Russian personnel and weapons and military equipment and a position of the invaders' air defense systems. All right, so you got supposedly offensive operations on the Russian side, supposedly offensive operations on the Ukrainian side. I don't know, but probably the war is going to be, I don't know, look outside since I'm here in Moscow, United States of America. You know, the weather should impede any, I would say, offensive conducted with tanks and personnel. But if needed be, you do that too. Why do I say with tanks? Well, it's not that easy to probably move them. I don't know exactly what the territory, how the topography looks over there, so I can't really assess if a tank offensive could be conducted or not. You know, I'm not a general, I'm just a marshal, so it's just reading what these guys are saying. I expect as anybody else that this war would be like this for the next 4 months or 3 months at least. So let's say December, January, February, about, so 3 months, be the same way. I shoot, you shoot, I advance here, I retreat here, and that would be it. And in the meantime, people will have no water, electricity, and food. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.